It's Knights night at the Abbey as 2 goals and the best nearly goal you've ever seen secure all 3 points to see in the new year for the U's. 2026, I love you already. Welcome to Under the Abbey Stand. It's a new year, but not a new U's and not a new UTAS either. I'm Julian Roberts. I get the honour of kicking us off this year, and it's apt that I'm joined by Tom Walker. How's things, mate? Oh, God, it's a strange way to say mate there.
Yeah. New year, new me and all that. Until about minute 44:59 on against Walsall. Same old story.
Well, it's funny, Tom, because I thought you'd just say, yeah, good new year. And then the next question I was going to ask you was, let's start straight away with the first goal. I was wondering if you could take us through it from your perspective.
Oh mate, I can't explain like how little time there was between me leaving the stand and and hearing the crowd go up. Went down to help a friend of the pod with a couple of drinks. Or to get in a couple of drinks, I should say. And I hadn't even placed my hand around a bottle of Diet Coke before the crowd went up.
I'm pleased.
I stood there honestly, like stunned silence for about 5 minutes, just like. No, just the worst thing was then obviously there was the Job chance just after.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I was like, no fucking way, absolutely no fucking way they're gonna do it again. Yeah, obviously came up on the pod following the Chesterfield game. Didn't take that one in either.
Which,
so, yeah.
Again, not really your fault. Let's not go into the details of it, but let's say Chesterfield's catering leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, Chesterfield's ability to cook sausage meat thoroughly the whole way through. But yeah.
And then you were obviously just being a nice bloke for New Year's Day, and it's come back to bite you again.
Yeah.
Your New Year's resolution should be to stop 2 things: stop eating sausages in Chesterfield, and stop being such a nice bloke and watch the whole of the first half.
Yeah. That's the first time that's ever been doing someone a favour or trying to do somebody a favour. It's actually more than anything, more than not, it's just simply my own self-indulgence, which costs me. So if it's that, it's fine. But if it's for good reasons, then maybe bin it off. But yeah, got our fix in the end. Was nearly treated to something even better. Obviously, wasn't quite, but
if you'd have managed to like be in the toilet or something at that moment,
oh mate, I know.
It would have just been like...
Do you know what? Like that's one of the things I was sort of in a way thinking. Just after Ben Knight's overhead kick came off the crossbar, I was like, obviously a bit gutted it hasn't gone in, but very glad that I've not missed that going in.
Yeah. I had the weird thing because I was watching it on telly, obviously delighted, absolutely buzzing at it all. But that's the sort of goal you really want to be there for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Part of me, the tiniest part of me was like, oh God, I'm quite glad that didn't go in because I really wouldn't want to miss an amazing goal like that. Well, look, let's get into it, Tom. Let's just start here. Is that the statement home win that we've been waiting for?
I think in terms of the opposition we played, yeah. I think in terms of the statement, I guess is not just a home win, but it's what it followed, which is obviously another good home win just before Christmas, and I think all things considered, a couple of good results on Boxing Day and then at Chesterfield, and to back it up by beating a team who are currently occupying an automatic promotion space in the end relatively comfortably. Obviously, it's kind of shaded a bit because obviously we saved the penalty rather than it going in. That would have made it quite uncomfortable. But in terms of those things and in terms of like the pure facts of it, and I guess what will be remembered, yeah, probably not so in terms of performance. I think we played better, to be honest, at home, particularly this season. I thought parts of the game, particularly the first period, probably leading up until about 35 minutes, so we really struggled to get into it. And I'm not sure really at any point other than a couple of bits of real individual quality from Ben Knight, I'm not sure we showed like, as much as we have done on other occasions. But so maybe in that sense it's not a statement, but yeah, I mean we've pretty comfortably brushed aside one of the teams who are currently and at the beginning of the season were talked about as being one of the favourites for promotion. So in that sense, yes, it absolutely has to be. And I think more than anything, it's just another little bit of evidence that I think we're a much better side than people have maybe given us credit for so far this season. And that's not just like externally, that's think our own fans as well. Like, I'm gonna bore particularly you, because obviously we go to the games together, but people that listen to this, and I bore people to tears for the next few weeks with this sentiment that any discussion of like a playoff challenge has to be totally binned. Totally binned. We're a side that should look at the top seven as, all right, if we don't quite achieve what we believe we should achieve, which is the top three, then that's not a bad backup option, basically. Because the way that we've just gone and competed with, particularly throughout December, with on three occasions title favourites, Chesterfield twice and MK, and obviously back it up on the first day of the new year by beating Walsall. I think it just indicates there's something there to really work with. But I think in terms of the day, the occasion, the result, the opposition we played, bit of a statement, performance can get better, and in some ways that's encouraging. I think Ben Knight mentioned that actually in one of the interviews that the club put out. If we can, if we feel there's still more to come, but that's the result that we've just had, then hopefully it can get better still.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like maybe where it is a statement is exactly like you say with the opposition, and anecdotally speaking, it feels like the result, or definitely the result on paper, that opposition fans have kind of pricked their ears up at and gone, oh, hang on, oh, Cambridge are doing well, aren't they? Because I feel like we are just slightly under the radar. We've been in that group of teams where with like 6, 7, 8 others where we're kind of flirting with that playoff spot. We're in and out of it week in, week out. It's so tight that every result makes a big difference. But I think this little spell culminating, hopefully not culminating, but I think it's the first one that has made other fans and other observers of the league go, oh, hang on, they are a serious team.
I think as well, like just to build on that, and I was going to come on to it a little bit later on, really, because there's a couple of little comparisons I was going to make with this team and other teams. But
do it now, mate.
Well, to be honest, I think a lot of the reason we're maybe going under the radar is that we're not doing anything that's going to seriously like impress people at this point in time. Like, we're doing things that you'll look back in, like, or potentially, I don't want to get too ahead of myself just yet, but we're doing things that you'd look back on in late March, April time, and you go, that's why they are where they are, and that's why they're up there and potentially, achieving things that they want to achieve. It's just things like we limit teams to virtually nothing. Like, I think in the last 3 games, like, other than obviously a bit of a mad sort of minute at Chesterfield, basically all the XG we've given away has been from the penalty spot. And it's been, other than that, like, there hasn't been much. And we're not talking about like, bargain basement teams here. We're talking about one that was in the hunt all last season, has been in the hunt all this season. A Gillingham side who, all right, not exactly riding high, but it's Ainsworth ball. Like, you expect to concede some chance and some ground to them. And obviously Chesterfield, who are again, I keep saying it, but like, they were the favourites to come win the league, and backed by a lot of pundits and people who cover the divisions in a lot of detail really, really highly. But we're just totally resolute at the back, and we've just got enough about us at the other end of the pitch to just make things happen at the moment. And it's gone on for a little while, and it's brilliant. This whole New Year's Day stuff, because I didn't indulge in any alka pops on the day. So I actually spent quite a lot of time doing a little bit of reading on the way back, like picking out little things I can mention on the pod, and rather than sort of
so you did some preparation for the pod.
Yeah. like rather than delving into my 8th can of Tisky on the way home, it was very much looking at basic comparisons between us and the lockdown team, or as we are now.
Yeah,
longest unbeaten run that season was 7. Obviously, we're currently on 10 with, I would argue, that League 2 could bite you on the arse in funny ways, but a fairly favourable run of fixtures coming up. We kept 14 clean sheets all season that year in the league, 8 so far this season, with a pretty big chunk to come. Like, there's a lot of things here that line up pretty well, is basically what I'm saying. And we just look like a team that do, for the most part, we do the basics of the game so well. And I think increasingly, I just think we've got a level of player in the squad, even people who've been on the fringes, like Ben Knight, who of course we'll talk about, who just have this level of quality that a lot of teams in this league don't possess, or don't possess a lot of. And I've been fairly optimistic for most of the season. Like, coming into the season, I've sort of maintained that I think we'll, even when things maybe weren't going so well, I've always thought, look, there is more to come. Like, there's enough potential in this team. There's enough pedigree and quality that it can get better. And I think once it clicks, it will start to look pretty coherent quite quickly. And I think that has basically happened in the last few weeks. So yeah, positive signs.
I totally agree with all that. And actually, we may as well talk about it now because we're kind of on the subject. It's kind of criminal that it's taken so long to even mention Ben Knight. But don't worry, we're going to get there. But on that point about us as a side, and like especially like you say, looking back, if it goes the way we're hoping or the way it's trending, and we do go up, and you look back and you think, what are the things that made us successful? I think actually you can even just go a bit wider. What are things that make a really good football team? You can even broaden that to sports team. Let's just say football team across any division, any professional football team. And I kind of boil it down to three things. Maybe I'm being a bit simplistic, but I feel like with a few probable exceptions, all really good teams, professional football teams, are A, defensively reliable. They might concede a few goals here and there, but over a 38 game or 46 game season, you've got to be defensively reliable to a certain extent. You've got to be able to not concede a lot of goals. If not, that is going to bite you in the arse. Look at Tottenham's Ange Postecoglou for the opposite example of that. You've got to be solid.
Tottenham.
Yeah, what did I say? Tottenham's Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Tottenham side under Ange Postecoglou. Let's go like that. Anyway, you've got to be solid at home, in my opinion. I think you've got a base. It's got to be your foundation for most good teams. We tick those two things off, and we have done all season. And I think the third one for me is contributions across a whole squad, not just a starting 11. There are plenty of good examples of teams with very good starting 11s, but the depth just isn't there. So injuries or just fatigue or lack of form comes to bite them in the arse, and then they don't have the consistency to be able to produce results across a season. I think over the festive period, we've answered that third one massively. And you look at the big thing for me is like, look at the Chesterfield game and look at the Walsall game, and the players you pick out from both games are almost entirely different. The players you pick out from the Chesterfield game would probably be like Gibbons, McLaughlin, Pelly, Brophy. It's not that those like played badly against Walsall. I mean, a few of them didn't even play. Like Gibbons, Pelly came off the bench. But then you look at the Walsall game and you're looking at Ben Knight, Rossi making a start, having not played a lot of football. Don Ball coming back into the starting lineup, Jake Eastwood saving a penalty. The contributions across the squad is maybe the big thing that this festive period has ticked off for us. And it's all with the foundation of, like you're talking about, of doing the basics well, which it's kind of now looking like a formula of, well, there is a really top side here, I think, in my opinion. Am I being too bullish?
I don't think. Well, but there's two answers to that. One is I don't think so, but the other one is like it'd be mad that if we weren't sat here being this bullish. Like, I'm not being funny. Like we spent. I know like first season back in League One was good, and obviously the end of the Great Escape year was good. I mean, like the very end of it was obviously very, very good. But aside from that, we've just basically gone through nearly 3 entire seasons of getting beaten every week, right? And sometimes quite heavily. Last season particularly was a disaster. Like every single aspect that could have gone wrong did go wrong pretty much all year. You think of Trouncins at London Road, they've done the double over us, all that sort of stuff. The amount of players that came in and didn't contribute, like key players that came in and didn't contribute, like forget the fringes. Like I'm talking about like players who are meant to be players like Gary Conn, for example, who were like signed and didn't not only didn't contribute in terms of his performances, but didn't contribute by even stepping on the pitch for us once. Like these sorts of things. Like we've just sat through that, and we sat here 10 unbeaten in the league, 14 in all competitions. We've just moved up to 5th in the league. We're a couple of points outside the top 3. We're looking good. We've got a good run of games coming up to look forward to. We've got a 3rd round tie against Birmingham, which might not be the dream draw that people look forward to, but it's a big game that we can get excited for with no pressure on us. We've got a January window ahead of us where we think we're going to add players and all this sort of stuff. And if you kind of can't get bullish now, then football's maybe just not for you. Yeah. It might be best to do something else because a lot of this will be a reaction to one game, and a lot of this will be a reaction to just like a few good results thrown together, which we might look back in 6 weeks and be like, fucking hell, we were a bit bonkers then. We went way too far with it. But I don't think I'd look back on that and regret it, just because these are the times that you have to sort of enjoy, like when particularly when you're a lower league fan, and particularly when you're a lower league fan that just sat through like 35 games of Gary Monk ball, So
well said. Yeah.
I'll dine out on it if that's all right. I'll indulge.
It's also, you've got to think, this isn't just 3 or 4 games. This is 10 games. It's nearly a quarter of the league season now. That's not like, it's not a flash in the plan. Sorry, there is a plan in place. Right, come on, we got to go on.
No, sorry, just one more thing. I think is that we have actually evolved a couple of things that needed evolving as well. Like this isn't just like, like a what's it, like a broken clock's right twice a day, that sort of thing. Like we have actually actively been able to change things, like in terms of like approach to away games, post Notts County, that sort of stuff. Like that, like Harris has obviously taken in what he's got, looked at what, or taken in what's happened, looked at what he's got at his disposal, and actually proactively gone out and changed things. And certain players have taken to it really well. So it shows that we've just got a bit more about us than just like, a team of players who've got a bit of quality and it comes together. And at some point, you're going to put some results together. I think we've genuinely got something here that we can build from.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well said. Right, come on, look, Ben Knight. We've got to talk about him. It's crazy. It's been this long of the pod, and we haven't really spoken about him. I mean, what a fantastic performance! 2 goals. Probably should have been 3. Let's be honest.
Yeah, shame about the absolute sitter that he left just after a second. He's only got 8 yards out.
Yeah. It's got to do better. He's got to do better.
Got to work the keeper from there, I think.
Yeah. I mean, what did you make to his performance? It was amazing to see a player like him, who we know, specifically him, we know he's got the quality, we know he's got the pedigree. To see him impact such a tough game like this was so pleasing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think I mean, look, there's loads to really like about his performance. The sort of headline statement stuff is obviously what happened in the second half. Really, like obviously the second goal, like it is almost like an afterthought. Weirdly, the one that actually went in the back of the net. Like when he just lobs the keeper from like 25 yards out.
Yeah.
We're just like, oh yeah, he did do that as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, like the overhead kick is just an incredible bit of like improvisation, but also just shows like the level of basically like the level that he's thinking at, like let alone playing at. Because, if you look at some of the players we had in our squad last season, like Dallin Dulu would have broken his body in like 18 places if he'd even tried that. I don't want to think what would have happened to Gary Gardner if he'd have tried it.
Yeah.
St John's ambulance would have had an absolute field day. They'd still be picking bits of his metatarsals out of turf now, I think.
Yeah.
But,
you haven't even mentioned Lofty.
Fucking hell. Built in China shop. But yeah, I mean, like that's obviously like the good stuff, and that's the stuff that again, like I guess you'll look back on and remember as that goal, that overhead kick. Obviously, puts us ahead, which is good. That's a case of being in the right place at the right time, which is a bit of quality. But and in a weird way, and I don't want to undermine with the actual achievements, which, like I say, are winning the game for us, basically with goal contributions and that sort of thing. In a strange way, that's the stuff that I kind of expect from Ben Knight, because I know that he's got this level of quality that probably a lot of other players in our team and in our league don't have. What I really liked about his performance that I've maybe not seen enough of, and part of this is just because he's not had enough time on the pitch to show it, and part of it is because I think he has drifted in and out of games a little bit more than you might like, is even in the first like 25 or 30 minutes when we were under it a little bit and Walsall were probably having the better of the game to start with. Every time that we got on the ball, Ben Knight wanted it. Like he craved it. Like he wanted possession. He wanted to try and make things happen. So as much as we'll talk about opening the score and just at the end of the first half, as much as we can talk about, a brilliant, well taken finish for his second, the overhead kick. There was a moment in the first half, for example, where like he's desperate to get on the ball and he plays his pass. I don't know if you remember, it's like inside the fullback. I think Brophy gets onto.
Yeah.
And it's the beginning of a move.
It's the Kai chance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's that one. And it's that sort of thing that I think like you're desperate to see more from Ben Knight. And I think when Harris talks about like, you want to see him now maintain this sort of level, like, I'm sure what he's not saying is, well, you've got to score 2 every week then. And you've got to make sure one of the overhead kicks goes in. He's talking about just like, almost like the kind of character to just want to get on the ball. So he's a player who's never really in his career had a run of games. And it's easy to forget. We know what the potential is. We know what the upside of having him in the squad is. What you want to see is him like want it himself that much. And I'm not questioning the desire that he's had before, but the desire that he showed in the Walsall game just to make things happen, I think is, well, certainly it's obviously his best performance for us. I think he showed a lot in flashes against Crewe. Obviously, again, that game plays a big part in thinking us getting level, and then obviously scores the winner late on. So again, like talk about character there, but this is a real breakthrough performance. And look, not every game is going to be Ben Knight's game, and he's not going to have an afternoon like that every week, probably. But yeah, just showed so much. Showed a lot of what you want to see. Showed a lot of the quality that we believe that he's got, and just like so many times that when he went off the pitch, like just so many like little sarcastic turns to people next to you. It's like, oh, I wonder who's going to get man of the match then. Probably Ben Knight.
Yeah.
It'd have been great. It'd have been great if it gone to like Kel Watts or something. Like no disrespect to Kel
Not
Watts'
even Eastwood.
performance, but
Yeah.
yeah, nah, brilliant. Just like yeah, pretty much 10 out of 10. I mean, like we are literally the with the width of the bar away from just being like it's like the best League Two performance ever, almost.
Well, definitely one of the best Cambridge United hat tricks ever. 100%, right? It would have to go right up there. It would have to go in the conversation, surely.
I don't
Is
think
it the
there would be
best?
much of a conversation, mate. If he'd scored a 25-yard lob, then an overhead
Yeah,
kick. I think
fair,
actually,
fair
to be
enough.
fair, Chris Holwood might have something to say about that, but
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
expunged famously. So,
Well, exactly. Is it the greatest nearly goal you can remember in a United shirt?
oh my God,
I hope on the train home you did a bit of research on this because if not, I am putting you right on the spot.
I just feel. Do you know what? I just feel so sorry for Ben Knight and all of this because as much as he's gonna get a lot of plaudits and stuff, like I just can't help but think about it.
Yeah, I know. It's the first thing, isn't it?
Do you know? I was speaking to Casper actually in the ground, and he's thinking like, obviously, I'm gutted it didn't go in, but I'm in a strange sort of way. And this will sound a bit mad because obviously it hit the bar. But if it had come off the bar and gone in off the keeper's back or something, I think I'd almost be a bit like,
Yeah,
So I want it to be different.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I'm
yeah, yeah.
almost like like we talk about like Quasi coming back and stuff. It's like you prefer the idea of it rather than like it actually
Reality.
happening, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, maybe like that. But yeah, I think it probably is. I can't really think of too many more that come to mind. To be fair, Walsall nearly scored a belter of an own goal in the first half. They belted it back
Oh,
from like 35, 40 yards out.
I don't know what this says about me, but I of the two goals, I think I might prefer the Warsaw own goal to Knight's
Yeah,
bicycle kick.
I mean that sums me up. That to be fair, you've asked me about best Cambridge United nearly goals. I've gone straight for a Walsall own goal.
Yeah, exactly.
But
People
yeah,
listening will remember some, so send them in, and we'll read them out on some later pods. But
the
amazing
other thing
moment.
is as well, like it's a proper overhead kick. Like
Yeah,
there's some like I don't really want to sacrilege it, but like right. So I know Max Rushton has his scale, doesn't he? I think he was this the Trevor Sinclair
the
spectrum or
Trevor Sinclair
something.
scale. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not spectrum scale. Uh, like so, like Garnacho against Everton.
Yeah,
Like that's an overhead kick. Obviously,
proper.
Rooney's against Man City. Obviously, he's famously overrated. It came off his shin.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you got like a Bellingham one against Slovakia, which was a moment that I loved, of course. But the way that Ben Knight gets up and it's like proper like, I mean, it's all acrobatic, but you know what I mean. Like the aesthetics of it were brilliant. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
For sure.
Oh, and for it to hit the bar, man.
I know. It's
Oh
it's
my
one of those.
God.
It's so athletic that when the ball's kind of going over behind him and he starts the motion for the bicycle kick, I'm like, well, there's no way he can reach the ball where the ball is. Do you know what I mean? The physics
Yeah.
didn't make sense live. So when he connects with it and then it hits the bar, oh, amazing. But in all seriousness on his performance, I think you made a really good point there about scoring two goals, excellent. The thing with Ben Knight was it was never a question of his quality. A guy doesn't come through Man City's academy and not have the sort of quality that Ben Knight has and that players of that pedigree have. It was always a little bit of can he adapt to League Two football and this level of football quick enough to have an impact and to maintain or like start some momentum up as a professional footballer. And that thing about wanting the ball and that confidence on the pitch to demand the ball is a huge thing, and it's like so exciting for us, I think, going forward. Because I remember early in the season, the criticism was never "is he good enough?" And it wasn't really "do you want it enough?" It wasn't a question of desire. But I remember that Harrogate game specifically came on when it was 1-1, and we're chasing the game. And I just remember our vantage point from the NRE, and he was playing on the right, attacking the NRE, and he was so often hiding behind the fullback. Not like so often wasn't demanding the ball in areas that you'd want a player like that to be picking it up in. And the difference between that game and Crewe a few weeks ago, when he sets one up and then picks the ball up and scores the winner from the spot, and then obviously Walsall to take two games a few weeks apart, is massive. So like that growth is huge, and it's just exciting, isn't it? All right, other things in the game to talk about. You mentioned the first 30 minutes of the first half. It kind of felt like they were the most threatening side, or they had a bit of, I wouldn't go as far as control. I'm not sure anyone had massive control of the football match, but they definitely seemed the most threatening, especially in behind. Carney looked a bit of a threat. Maybe a few tired legs from us, a few passes not quite clicking properly. How did you feel like we approached the game, both in terms of like the lineup and that first 30 minutes?
The lineup is just, I think it just is what it is because of the time of year it is and the amount of games we played in a short period of time. And to be honest, just the fact that we have got the option to do it, or sort of make the changes that we did. And arguably when you're playing so well, it's that old fashioned cliche of like you just keep the winning team, like you well, don't change your winning team basically. But I think we approached it fairly cautiously. I think we paid probably on the right side of the line of like paying respect to Walsall, who are a good side, like they are. Weirdly, if you'd asked their fans about minute 85 what they thought, I think they'd have been talking about like one of the worst football teams ever and like the worst coached football team of all time. That's maybe another story. But I thought, and I'm sort of willfully happy to kind of gloss over it now because obviously of how the game went and how things have been going recently. But I just am kind of happy to put it down to a decent side coming and pressing well and just making it quite difficult for us. And obviously, like a lot of this season, because of basically what our expectations are, which is to be right up there, and obviously some of the players who've got in the squad, I think a lot of things that have gone wrong this season, we've just looked so inwardly, and I think that has been right a lot of times. But like it's going to just like even though the level and the quality of the division isn't what we've been used to over the last 4 or 5 years in League One, there are still times in this division where like teams are going to come and put you under it a little bit, and I think Walsall just did that pretty well. Those two up front are a real handful, Matt and obviously Kanu. Obviously, if Matt goes off with an injury, and I think that probably helped us a little bit as well because there are a couple of hairy moments in the first half, like which to be fair resulted in like really really good last ditch tackles. I think one from Rossi and one from Bennett, yeah. And a lot of that just comes from having like two really decent centre forward. Like you look at like Notts County's strikers, for example, like they did the same thing to us, Dennis and Jatta. Like they're just hard work at this level, and I think that's basically what it was. So I don't think it's as much about approach. I think you have to pay a team like Walsall respect. I'm not sure we played the game perfectly in the first half an hour. Like a lot of it seemed to be one of the centre halves push out quite wide and receive it there. Like Watts was trying to hook it up the left hand side so many times, it just wasn't working. It just seemed to land on Aidan Flint's head every single time that we were playing it forward, and we didn't quite. To be honest with you, you can always boil it down and say, look, we just weren't getting like Ben Knight on the ball enough. We weren't getting Kaiko on the ball enough. And we managed to rectify that, I guess, towards the end of the first half and obviously in the sort of first bit of the second. And obviously by the time we're 2-0 up, the game's kind of done. But in that first half an hour, I think it's probably a little bit of, maybe a little bit of getting used to each other as well, because there's been a lot of combinations in there that won't have played together for a long time, maybe even won't have played together before. I'm not absolutely sure about that. And part of it is just like, a decent team have come to town and they've started brightly, I think, and I don't really want to look into it too much more than that at the moment, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right about them being a decent team. That there's enough evidence to suggest that that's true. Also, I just thought Kanu was just a constant threat. Like he's a far better striker than League Two, in my opinion. I know he didn't have his best afternoon. I just thought the way he was getting in behind, he seemed like a really smart operator to me, and clearly their threat.
Yeah,
Put it this way: when he went off in the second half, my like level of nerves went down by like 30% instantly.
Yeah, and the blood pressure in the away end went up about 50%. I think.
Amazing. I can't remember if I've ever experienced that. I mean, they're fourth. It's like
I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, look, we've probably been part of away ends that are quite irate towards managers in the past, right?
Yeah.
But not when we've been that high up in the league, I don't think.
God, they're third. Sorry, not fourth.
Yeah.
They take a striker. I mean, to be fair, it was a weird sub. Like you take a striker off your best striker.
Yeah, I mean,
best player in the division, chasing the game.
Like part of that is probably acceptance that the game's done, but then they get a penalty a couple of minutes later. But anyhow, like obviously, the first bit is what it is. I guess Kanu probably won't be there. I think he's on loan, isn't he? So probably won't be there for the second half of the season. So they've been stiffed last season with loan. They're probably going to get stiffed again with Kanu going back or going somewhere else. But yeah.
The Warsaw lad on the pod said it's the fourth season in a row that they're going to lose a striker in January who's their top scorer, which is just
because part of that, like you're desperate to be frustrated with it, aren't you? But then you're also like, yeah, we are finding these guys.
Yeah,
a bit too good.
Yeah,
you can't criticize them for recruiting players who are too good. Like that's not how it works. But
stick a clause in the contract, lads. No recall.
Yeah, or just buy them.
Or just buy him. Yeah, just buy him. But it was a funny first half because aside from all of that, it felt like they had the biggest threat. We had that Kai chance where he completely air kicks it about sort of 10 yards out or something. It's a huge
That
chance, really, to be honest. It's a huge
that's
opening.
That's one of our best moves of the season, by the way. That
Yeah,
was
the
just a bit
ball
of
from
quality,
Knight
I
is
think.
so good, especially on the highlights, watching it back. It's brilliant. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Brophy does so well to find him. Kaká just fluffs his lines. They have a similar sort of chance as well. I think is it Flint? I'm not sure. Maybe the centre mid Finnegan. I can't remember who it is who can also air kicks it. It sort of hits his standing foot when it breaks to him around the penalty spot. Uh, and the question I was going to ask is, did you feel like we deserved to go in one up because we obviously capitalise on a defensive mistake, but then weirdly 2 minutes later, it's weird that we're not 2-0 up going into half time. It's a funny old situation, isn't it?
Yeah, it's bizarre. Yeah, I was pretty sure it'd be 0-0 at half time, if I'm perfectly honest with you. So I suppose on the evidence of what actually happened, you can probably assume that I wasn't expecting us to go and tap one in, to be honest. But yeah, like it was a weird game, and I think this is again something that we were talking about after the match. But I think one of the themes over the last few weeks has been, I think whether it's just what happens or by design, we do seem to have like conceded a pretty. Or this is kind of anecdotal. This isn't statistic, but it feels like we concede a lot of possession in and around our own box at times. But the quality of chances that we give up is just never high. I can't think of any again other than that 1 minute at Chesterfield where they hit the bar and they head over from a couple of yards out. We don't give up like high quality chances for all the times where we've teams have had a bit of pressure on us. Like MK had it at times, Chesterfield had it at times. Obviously, Walsall had it, in that first period. We just don't give up high quality chances. But what we seem to be doing now, which is basically the big change from now compared to the last couple of weeks, is we do create good quality chances. And again, look at something as simple as XG. Like our XG is higher than Walsall's, and we gave away a penalty. Like,
Yeah, that's
which is
mad.
obviously
Yeah,
pretty much. I think anyway, unless it's like a tap it on the line, it's basically like the highest XG chance you can get. I suppose it's just a clear shot of goal.
yeah.
So obviously pretty close range. So like deserving to be a goal ahead and that sort of conversation. I don't really know, but I just think we're creating good quality chances at the moment, which is something that we've not really done. So when you do that, sometimes you find yourself a goal up in a situation you might not have expected to. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'd have lost my mind if Jobs had gone in as well. I thought
Well,
I'd have
look,
left the ground.
I mean, I've no idea how you've been reprieved there because I thought I'd seen a centre back miss like the worst chance I've seen or the worst miss up at Chesterfield. And then the next game, Job manages to
Hold my beer.
watch this 2 yards out, unmarked, literally like ball looping as well, not really coming in at pace. And he heads it down into the foot of the post. The XG says that Job's was a 0.66 chance, and the one at Chesterfield, which felt like the worst miss I've ever seen, was 0.56. So it gives you a little indication as to what the data makes of it. I have no idea how he's not scored. And then the thing I just clocked, which is worth going back and watching the highlights for, is the defender then clears it out. This what Ball is appealing for, and it's what confused me when I was watching it because I thought Ball was appealing for it having gone over the line, but it obviously hit
That's
the
what I
face of the
thought. No,
post.
I thought he was appealing for some sort of foul, like a
Yeah,
penalty.
right.
I knew he was appealing, like desperately appealing for a penalty, but I just couldn't for the life of me see what it was. But he managed to pick it out.
Well, watch it back. Like the defender on the line, he elbows it away. I mean, it hits like the sort of crook of his elbow. I'm not quite sure how the refs missed it. I mean, you nailed it when I just pointed it out to you. You said it's one of those situations where the ref probably feels like because we know we've missed a sort of gilt edged opportunity, that we're just appealing for something because we can't have just missed that chance. But actually, it is a pretty stonewall pen as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, doesn't matter. Would have been much easier if Job had just scored and we'd have gone in 2-0 up. But that isn't that important right now. Second half, let's talk about Knight very quickly again, because what I want to point out is I don't know if you've seen ITV Football's X account. They've called his second goal a volley. Now, this isn't football cliches. There's a good pod that you can go to for this sort of stuff. But can we just agree it's not a volley, is it?
Uh, no.
It bounces
Yeah.
first. B, it's a lob, surely, before it's a volley.
Yeah, but can
I
you?
guess it could be a lob, but I
I
think a
think I
pure
think
volley has got to be no bounce.
I think you could lob someone with a volley.
Yeah, but it still can't bounce, surely.
No. I mean that's what kills it.
Yeah, I guess you probably could lob someone with a volley. It doesn't feel as pure though to me. For some reason in my head, a volley is
You're thinking like Rooney against Newcastle.
yeah, skulls against Villa for another.
Second bench for Wazza on this pod. He'll need to
Yeah,
know.
yeah, he's loving it. Anyway, that isn't particularly important, but amazing moment, isn't it? Little note for Apare in the build-up as well. Like, it seems like really smart forward play. It's a sort of tough afternoon for him against Flint. You mentioned he was winning everything in the first 20, 30 minutes, but he does really well for this, doesn't he?
Yeah. And that's sort of link up play that you expect. Well, that you want to see from him. And it's almost kind of exactly why we've kind of banged the drum all season about I was looking better with two up front, or for most part, looking better with two up front, or at least getting bodies around a striker, which we've not been able to do it. Like Gillingham, for example, in the second half, which is where that game went a little bit. Well, got away from us a little bit, I suppose. So yeah, really good from Apare. I mean, obviously it is kind of all about the finish, though, isn't it? Really. And I think that the sign of a player with quality and a sign of a confident player is just how early did they take those chances.
Yeah, totally.
Again, like, I hate to go back to last season, but look, with the greatest respect, if you put Ryan Loft in that situation, he's trying to bring it down. He's trying to take 2, 3, 4, 5 touches, each of which is getting further and further away from his foot. And like the ball is just bundled out, or he gets himself sent off or something mental like that. Knight just sees keeper off his line. The interview that the club put out with Ben Knight, I like it because it's just so direct. It's to the point. It's like, yeah, keeper's off line, so I just loved him.
What were you worried about?
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, but how did you do it? You played in League Two.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
brilliant. Is that goal of the season so far?
yeah. Why not? Should give it
Got
to
to be,
him.
hasn't it? Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah,
Yeah, just try to think of one that because I'm trying to think really quick, but I think that's got to be it. Second half, then after that, I mean, there's not loads to talk about, which is probably to the credit of the defence and the setup. We restricted them to very little. You've already made the point about the XG. They have the penalty, which we can talk about in a second, and I want to speak about Eastwood specifically. But do you think it's the biggest, keeping this Walsall side out? Do you think it's the biggest validation yet of our brilliant defence and home form that we've seen so far? Because I think it's been mentioned on a couple of pods that we have, with New Year's Day game, we have kind of answered every question in my mind now, in that we've played every opposition and we're not just keeping clean sheets against poorer sides in the division. We're also not just beating sides at home that are at the bottom end of the table. It feels like we've just ticked so many boxes with that performance. It's validated so much of what we suspected to be true. Or do you think that's going too far?
no, I don't really think that's going too far. I mean, I think, and part of it is Walsall. I mean, I'm kind of looking at this, and I'm looking at all of it really more in the sort of, well, going back to the beginning of December, really. And I just think like a big question that was asked for us early in the season was away form. Got on beating Chesterfield away, drawn at MK, 2 title favourites, 4 points. Arguably could have been 6 from those 2 games as well. But 4 points from those 2 is pretty good return. And then I think you're right. Like we were lacking the statement home win. A little bit disappointing not to have seen now against Chesterfield at home at the beginning of December. But then again, New Year's Day, like you go and beat Walsall. I think so, and I think just being able to shut out teams like that is like it is the stuff that wins you promotions, really. Like again, I was going back and looking at the lockdown promotion table, and obviously we unless we fall apart a little bit second half of the season, we're going to be considerably better than the lockdown team in terms of the goals we concede, and we're looking a bit more like Cheltenham really of that season, who obviously gone and win the league. I think they conceded 39 goals, and we're probably going to concede, well, at this rate, probably less than that.
Yeah.
So it's like it's pretty impressive, and I think like defensively, like we are like immense, really. We just are, and certain players in like Watts probably haven't talked about enough, really. I think Rossi's one that deserves a big mention from the game against Walsall as well, because he came in and did really well. Again, like against the sort of threats that he had to deal with, obviously in Matt for the first bit of the game, and then obviously Kanu stays on for most of it as well. And it's like different shapes, different ways. Like we just find a way to limit the opposition. The only thing I'd maybe say, just to kind of caveat it all a little bit, because we are kind of like bullishness is proper rising here, like the pan's boiling, so to speak, and all that sort of stuff. But there were quite a lot where the ball flashed across the face of goal in the second half. Obviously, we give away the penalty, which is just clumsy defending. It's a lapse of concentration that you don't really see from us too much. And, Walsall might look at this game and have a totally different take on it than we do. They might look at this and be like, we've shot ourselves in the foot so many times by not scoring a penalty and not being able to tuck the chance away that did come. And also, like, if you look at the first goal, we've given it away inside our own box, that sort of stuff. But from where I'm sat, I'm looking at it over a much longer period than that and thinking, if you're a team that just doesn't really concede chances, you are going to win a lot more games than you lose. And if you win a lot more games than you lose, you are going to find yourself at the right end of the table. So, yeah, we'll have to see.
We got this question in from Mark on the defence. He said, do we need Morrow anymore? Job's running the team coincides with a monumental unbeaten run. Do you think he comes back in, Morrow?
Not straight away. Not at this rate anyway. Again, I think League Two, and in the case of Job, January has a real knack of biting in the backside when you least expect it. And you would never want to write a player like Morrison off, because obviously he's again someone who's performed very well when he has played this season, and is obviously the captain. So you'd think he'd be right in amongst it in terms of the first 11. But at the moment, the question is, like, who would you drop? You certainly wouldn't drop Watts. You certainly wouldn't drop Job. Obviously, if you go with three at the back, I guess that leaves another space. But Rossi's just played really well, and if he can cement his place, then even Gibbons has chipped in there and played really well at times, and all this sort of stuff. So, yeah, like, we need Morrison, because we need experience. That back line without him is relatively inexperienced, I would say. And someone like Rossi who's not played a lot of football, Watts, like I said, a bit more and that sort of stuff. But Morrison's the elder statesman. Like, you still need him, and I imagine the value that he brings, even if he's not playing, even if he's not in the squad, just the value by him just being around there and obviously being able to help people through different situations in the season is obviously invaluable and something that we definitely need. But he doesn't get them back in the starting 11 yet. It's a sign of a good team. If the captain can't even force his way back in, then you must be doing something right. And that's through no detriment of his own. It's just he's had some bad luck with injuries this season, like partly because of Jake Eastwood and partly because of other people as well. But we need him, but not right now. Is basically, I guess, the answer.
Yeah, so file it under good problem to have, right? Eastwood, you mentioned there. I really want to give him a moment on this pod, because
imagine if that was his summary from this game was fucking hell, he injured Morrison.
Yeah, in August. It's worth talking about him specifically because, well, the penalty giving away you've touched on. I don't think we need to dwell on that. I think you're right in what you said about it just being very clumsy, lapse of concentration. Doesn't need to do it, Bennett. Hopefully he just learns from it. But Eastwood himself, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying he's saved every penalty he's faced in the league, and also, came out on top in the shootout up at Stockport. Adams asked this question. Eastwood was tipped to be a nothing special keeper due to his lack of senior football, but has turned out to be a solid platform builder. Lovely turn of phrase, that. Instead of goalkeeper, a solid platform builder. What are the pod's thoughts on him, and will we be able to retain him? So maybe more so on the first part of that question, worth a moment for Jake Eastwood, no? Because even in the last 3 games, I think he's shown a lot, hasn't he?
Yeah, big time. I think he's one who deserves his flowers, really, because he got again, like, maybe through no fault of his own, maybe because of like things that had gone wrong in previous transfer windows. I think when he was signed, and he came with the background that he had. You signed a guy who wasn't even playing for Grimsby. Maybe naturally, like, you do expect a bit of, well, eyebrows very, 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 very raised with that, and verging on, I guess, even now just disrespect, really, looking back. But he's been, I think, like, there's been a lot of players who have contributed a lot this season. A lot of them have contributed what you would expect in a weird way, like, not to try and dumb down the achievement of some of them. Like, Watts has obviously come back and bounced back really well from a disappointing season last year. But Eastwood is one who's really gone above and beyond expectation, I think, because he's just been just solid. Like, just solid as what you'd expect. It's like a good high-end League Two goalkeeper, really. Like, yes, his kicking's a little bit astray at times. Yes, he might make the odd rick, but 9 times out of 10, you can rely on him, really. And you don't expect someone to be consistently reliable from the penalty spot. Well, not from the penalty spot, sorry, from the other side of it, I guess. But obviously saves it at Gillingham, and like that one shouldn't be forgotten, even despite what happened just a minute later in that game. But and again, I guess there's an argument that maybe Eastwood's penalty save gets forgotten in this game because of what Ben Knight was doing, but it shouldn't be, because what follows that that penalty being saved is 7 minutes go up on the board. And we've used the word comfortable quite loosely in a couple of times when we're talking about the performance and the result and stuff, but it'd be anything but if you're sat through 7 minutes against Walsall at home trying to see out a lead when they're probably roaring and fighting for their lives to try and get back into it. So yeah, he deserves it for all that, but he's also just just in terms of his all-round play as a goalkeeper, he's been very very dependable. And it sounds so obvious because obviously they are like they're goalkeepers, but like they're a massive part of the back line. Like being able to instill confidence in those in front of you, particularly the two centre halves, I think is a massive part of the unit and a massive part of the platform that's getting built, I guess. Coin a phrase, but yeah,
it's with Eastwood as well. It's the other one to not forget is the one up at Grimsby, which again will get forgotten because he kind of does his part. Maybe you could be critical and say he could parry it away, which he definitely does for the one at Gillingham and the one against Walsall. But yeah, that's it's a pretty impressive streak, I think, to have saved all 3 penalties you face in the league.
What does Jake Eastwood need to do to be remembered? Because it's all getting forgotten. Does he need to score an overhead kick?
Yeah. That would be a turn up for the books. Imagine that.
Then Ben Knight saves a penalty, and that's all we remember instead.
Little word on Harris, I think, is worth talking about here. Just coming towards the end of the sort of festive run of games, he said after the game, just a little quote: "I keep saying we're going to get better and better. I believe that, and I promise that." Do you think we've seen that over this period, us getting better in a period which is the toughest for availability? And the second part of that question is a question we've had in from James, which is what level do you think he can get this team to? So it's kind of 2 parts to that.
Well, look, like we'll carry on with the bullishness rising trend. It's something that I've said to you guys in our WhatsApp chat on a few occasions recently. In terms of the level I think he can get us to, I'll start with that one. I think automatic promotion with a strong tilt at the title, I think, is realistic. It's what Bonner achieved. There's no reason Harris can't go and do the same thing with probably a bigger budget, like relative to the rest of the division. So yeah, I think automatic promotion now has to be the level. Like what we've seen recently, you have to have that as your standard. Obviously, at some point we'll lose a game. I'm not expecting us to go unbeaten for the rest of the season. Of course, like, there'll be twists and turns in there. There'll be disappointing moments and stuff, and that's all natural. But on the balance of everything that we've seen, there's a team here and there's a coach here that can get us to. Back into League One, basically, which is, and it's as simple as that. So I guess if you're talking about levels, the one above, there you go. How about that? But yeah, I think what, and again, like, a lot of these things aren't new because these are things that we've spoken about really since this unbeaten run started. But for me, I think a lot of the thing that's most impressive is how he's managed to adapt his own management and his own coaching the team at some points against his probably better instinct. Look at him switching to 3 at the back, for example, at times, like when it's been required. But he's been quite public and quite clear that that's not a formation that he likes or not a formation that he would be preferring. But needs must, he finds a way, and he actually managed to execute it in a way that we've got like the joint best defence in the division. At this rate, we'll have the outright best defence in the division because we look pretty imperious at times. Look at things like how he's managed to rectify the away form, like. That was a bit of a bugbear, and it contrasted so heavily with the home form. And obviously, it's not quite there yet because the home form's so good, and that's not a criticism of Harris. But the away form will need to catch up a little bit if we want to seriously maintain the levels that we're at. And then like things like chance creation, and these are all like big question marks over Harris. Really, things like, is he going to be too stubborn? Is he going to be like able to get this team of players that? Is he going to be able to like improve the atmosphere around the club, like these sorts of things, And
even just creativity, like attacking football, it was a huge question mark over him.
Yeah, and look, I think this is the thing that's almost most pleasing, because I still don't feel we're anywhere near the finished article.
No,
it's obviously something that Harris said a couple of times about his teams get better throughout the season. Mentions it again after the Walsall game. You obviously now got a transfer window, like we'll talk about Grimsby a little bit coming up, but. Then you've got 2 clear weeks in the transfer window to maybe get in a bit more quality. And at that point, you're thinking, like, this is already a good team and you're bringing a couple of right bodies into it. that takes up another notch, right? So it does all look pretty rosy, and we obviously spoke a lot about the opinions that a lot of people held, arguably rightly so, when he came back to the club because of things that had gone on before. But at this rate, people won't even remember the word Millwall, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I guess in some ways that's the biggest positive that you could, or the biggest compliment that you could chuck his way, is that he kind of runs the place now, and he has pretty unanimous respect, I think, or at least people like unanimous backing. That it's weird because like, obviously he does the fist pumps. I did kind of think to myself just before he did it, he's walking towards it with a bit more of a swagger now.
mm. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
and I know like when you're doing well, you're so conscious of just over analyzing every little detail. But I do think like he just looks like confident, you know.
yeah.
Um, And I think like the other thing that's really important as well, and it's not just about the manager, it's also about how the players buy into it. And I know he's come out and said since that they didn't have a single day off over Christmas, which is, probably presumably not something that goes down that well in a football dressing room. I know they probably expect to have to work a bit harder over Christmas because of what the schedule's like, but that's a lot of commitment. So to be able to create that level of buy-in from players suggests he's got to be doing something right, because God knows we've seen it in years gone by when players have dropped form and dropped heads and basically packed it in when it hasn't been going well with certain other managers. And it seems to be the total opposite. So, yeah, everything's going well.
I'll tell you this as well, just out of interest. I just went and looked at his win percentage rates with us this time round compared to the rest of his career. I can tell you he's got the second highest win percentage of his career in this spell at United. The highest was where he came from, Millwall, the time just gone, 15 wins out of 35 games. And then before that, 41.63 win percentage over 245 games of Millwall, which includes a lot of those in the Championship. So it does feel like the one thing with Harris you do get is the consistency over time, which is kind of on the flip side of it, where it was going so wrong with Gillingham, which was, like you say, the stubbornness and the lack of adaptability, which was everything we heard from Gillingham, that when he was with them in League Two, that was the root cause of their problems. But with us, it kind of bodes well in the longer term future, even beyond this season, that when he has a formula in place at a club that back him, it seems like it works for a few years, as long as he doesn't piss off back to Millwall at some point. Look, anyway, to continue our form, I should say. We've got a challenge coming up in 3 days because it's the end of the festive madness, and then we can get back to some sort of normality, I guess, some sort of routine. But we've got Grimsby at home coming to town on Sunday. Let's start with a fan interview. I had a chat with the DN35 pod. Right, then it's time to get our preview of the Grimsby match on Sunday. I'm joined by Alex from the DN35 podcast. How you doing, mate? Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year to you too, mate. Yeah, all right. We are doing fine for once. We can't talk about Manchester United anymore, so we can talk about beating Fleetwood.
Yeah. Well, annoyingly, like you are doing all right now, which, as we just said pre-record, is a bit of a classically bad time for us to face you, because it seems like it's been a bit of an interesting season. When we played you in September, you were probably maybe the form team and the team to beat, playing the best football by all accounts. We considered it a brilliant point, despite obviously it being a last-minute equaliser for you guys, but we were pretty happy to come away with that. And then since then, it seems like when I looked the other day, sort of when this game starts, in the next five, it starts sort of appearing in the distance, and you were 15th, and I was like, when did that happen? So what's the story?
It's a really interesting one, and we both know what shit football teams look like that are on the way to non-league.
Too right.
We can sniff them out from a mile away, and it hasn't been that. Genuinely, when you've used, I mean, you've probably been there when a manager is six without a win, and he's going, "No, look, we deserve to win that," and you're in your car going, "No, we didn't."
Yeah.
And that's genuinely been the case where the performances have been there, and we have had a keeper in terrible form, shall we say, in Christy Pym, and we had very few striking options. Jace Cabia started the season, came in from I want to say Truro, and has started fantastically, but feels like he's been a little bit found out. So that's been interesting. to see it. We don't have many other options in front apart from Danny Rose, who the story seems to be that he's lost his way and his legs are going, but I don't necessarily see that. But effectively, the midfield is one of the best in the league. The defense is pretty shite. The goalkeeper was the worst in the league. And we had, a guy who was trying to find his way in the Football League, trying to score. So we would have 3 or 4 half decent chances. And then they would score one on the break and the keeper would let it through his legs. Thankfully, the goalkeeper has got injured. I assume David Artell over Christmas was basically like Kevin McAllister in Home Alone, just putting lots of micro machines around his house, pouring water on the steps up to his building, and go, God, if we can get him injured, we can get an emergency loan keeper in. And that's basically what we've done. So Jackson Smith has come in from Barnsley. He's been here before. We've had 3 clean sheets since he came in. I don't think that's a coincidence. He is a pretty strong pedigree of a goalkeeper for us. He looks like he's loving it. If you're a third choice goalkeeper at Barnsley, you can finally play in front of someone that isn't, I don't know, Sheffield United's under 17s. You're probably enjoying life. And so he's done really well. Jace Cabey has scored a couple. And to be honest, mate, the way that the both goals for the 2 games we've won in the last 2 have been within the sort of last 5 to 10 minutes. So you can't get better, really. If you're beating a Pete Wild team in the wins that we all faced 2 days ago, you're going to take a lot of confidence from it, and hopefully it will continue that. If it's not going your way, they might, just continue with the same energy levels to try and get 3 points. Honestly, 2 games before this, joining us before Christmas, there are people, they haven't got them out, but they're writing the banner that says Arta out.
Wow. It got to that stage, did it? Because I was going to ask what the sort of mood was like with the manager in that run.
It's an interesting one. I really like him, and the way the performances have been, I've been, relatively fine. There was a couple of games before the start of the Christmas break where you're going, actually, they really do look devoid of confidence, and unless the ball's going to go in off someone's arse, it's not going to go in. These last 2 games have kind of changed that thing, and the only hope we always had when we were talking about on the podcast, if we can limp towards New Year and be decisive and be, take action on the place, because the gaps that we have in the team are quite obvious. Keeper's shite, probably need someone up front. If we can sort that, then you're probably halfway to fixing the issues, because most of the things are there. So yeah, there were some, there are always, I assume you guys have exactly the same. There's quite a loud minority who are very keen to see the club struggling at times. They like to get that sort of bit of anger out of themselves. And I don't think he would have been under any pressure, but he would have been answering questions of, what do you, our honours are pretty decent. So the comments should be more like, what do you need to succeed? Where do we need to make changes? And I wouldn't be, I'm slightly surprised we haven't already seen people being signed already. But I wouldn't expect it'll be too long until today or after our game we see some changes coming in too.
It's funny that point about the sort of vocal minority. Someone cracked me up on our Twitter account after beating Walsall on New Year's Day, which is obviously like 10 unbeaten. We're flying at the moment, and he just wrote, "I'm furious because I've got nothing to be furious about." It's just like,
well, this is the thing, isn't it? One thing that Grimsby Town being completely shite has been brilliant for our content. It is,
yeah.
It's never better. And then we've got to this point now. We're going, when we started seeing, what do we talk about? This is really boring. And then sure. we would give us content again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so these last 3 games then since Boxing Day, haven't conceded a goal in those 3 is the thing that kind of stuck out to me. You mentioned the 2 late winners as well, sort of finding a way. What has anything changed in the blueprint, in the setup? Aside from, you obviously mentioned the keeper, and I assume that's a big factor. But is there anything else to note in terms of maybe how you've changed your style in this period?
Yeah, no, not too many changes. The only other one is Jaden Sweeney's come back as right back. He is absolutely standout in terms of a player. We hadn't lost a game with him playing this season, and then you'll be surprised to know he got injured in October and hasn't come back until now. So his inclusion has allowed Charles Vernon, on the left, the freedom to be more creative. He's our creative powerhouse. So don't let him cut inside, because when he does, he will at least try and curl it in, and you know, 3 times out of 10 it will happen. So you know the luck's going our way at the moment. It might well be two absolute beauties, but he's allowed that sort of freedom up front. There hasn't been too many other changes. One of the things that Artel is probably criticised about is that he's very stubborn in terms of he has a style of the way he wants to play. He kind of saved his job at the very start of when he joined us, when I think he went, this would be good. You know, there's some foundations here of a half decent team. And then sort of halfway through the season, oh no, these are very shit. We're gonna have to go proper League Two, 10 men behind the ball, play for set pieces. And he had to change it then. It took a while, and I don't think he's going to have to do that this time round, because the foundations that he's put in place, there are some talented players there. They have been devoid of confidence, and then you start tinkering. And we were having this conversation, but at the moment, Harvey Rodgers is playing right back, and I think the reason he's playing right, he's a centre back. The reason he's playing right back is I think he's the quickest player in the team. So it would be one of those sort of things. You exactly the same thing. Your manager gets sacked. You know, haven't won for 10 games. And then this other guy comes in, Steve Evans comes in, just sticks 4 guys behind the ball, a right back, a left back, 2 centre backs, and just changes everyone around to the positions they're actually playing in. And you go, oh, well, was it that simple? But it seems to be working at the moment, but it does leave some. He's a good athlete. I'm not sure if he's a good footballer.
Well, this is something.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you set up now then? So it's on FOTMob. It's got it down as like a 4-1-4-1. Is that roughly?
Yeah, kind of. So you tend to have someone like George McEachran or Gazer Tory more likely at the moment, who sits in front of a 4. It's obviously different within terms of with the ball, without the ball. With the ball, Harvey Rodgers tends to be a marauding right back to get forward. That's now sort of more balanced out with Sweeney being back in the team too. So there's an opportunity from left and right. Cabia for a while has been cutting a pretty lonely figure up front. He requires someone like Kieran Green to get close to him behind him, with someone like Sweeney and Dara Burns on the left and right trying to get the ball. They don't go to the problem we have is they don't go to the byline. So imagine the same problem England had at the World Cup. We're going, just put Anthony Gordon on the left. Let's give us some width.
Yeah.
It's the kind of same thing. Both of them like to cut inside, and there's a sort of conversation for 10 minutes in a game. Why can't they just swap and then start to try and get them in from the byline? We like to try and get into the box and cut the ball low and hard across the box to see who can put a toe on it. That tends to be how we try and get the ball into the back of the net. Dara Burns' cross against Fleetwood was beautiful, as was the header. So that's kind of how we play. George McEachran is a Rolls-Royce midfielder. Rather annoyingly, he's only got 6 months left on his contract. And I think the question is, do we try and cash in now for 100 grand? Or do we wait till the end of the season? To be honest, let's be honest, this league is pretty shit. All disrespect to the likes of Bromley, I'm not 100% sure they have the finances or the infrastructure that they were putting in place to League 2. So no one seems to want to win it. So I would be happy to see him stay. I think he's worth more to us trying to get into a playoff position this season than losing him for 100 grand to, Peterborough. It's always Peterborough.
Always them, yeah. This league is hilarious, isn't it? It does make me laugh. I mean, we've been away from it for a little while, but I remember it. I don't remember it being quite so sort of equal in terms of I'm just waiting for someone to impress me every week, including ourselves. Really, I'm not saying we're particularly good, and you're right. No one sort of seems to want to win it, but for Grimsby, in terms of the rest of the season, which of the two sort of Jekyll and Hyde sides of your team is a bit more of an accurate reflection in your mind? As in, are you going, is top 3 still the target? Is it just to make the playoffs and see how you go, or is it even lower than that?
Yeah, no, I think we're a better team than we were last season. We were 45 minutes away from getting into the playoffs. So I think playoffs are absolutely bare minimum in terms of, Artel saying, look, I always want to improve. Well, if you're 45 minutes away from getting into the playoffs, the only thing you can do is make it. We are a better team than we were last season. But yeah, these last few months have been a bit. Is it just been a hangover from beating Manchester United and everyone's still shit as the away team boss draws in, going, do you want to have a look at the selfies I got with Amarin crying in the corner? I don't know if it's that. I think we missed out on a couple of players at the start of the season. So I think we were really in for Regan Linney, who's now at Carlisle, and popping him in there. I think we got to a point where they were effectively waiting for him at the training ground to turn up. And he then signed for Carlisle 30 minutes later. So I think they'd put quite a few eggs in that basket, and they were kind of coming into this season with Danny Rose, who they were hoping would have the same sort of season, Kabia up and coming, and Cam Garner, who sort of played incredibly against United and then got injured for an under-21 Scotland's game and hasn't played since. So we're kind of light up front. Charles Vernon, who has been here and there, he's kind of played for every team in Lincolnshire, apart from Brig. But he's brilliant, but you're kind of worried about when his hamstring's going to pop. At the moment, it's not. He's absolutely fine. He's a real creative dynamo. We are waiting for a couple of players to come back. So after that, I think we're going to be... It's one of these ones where you're waiting for players to come back. And I think they've kind of probably identified where the weaknesses are. And if we can get in the right guys, then yeah, I even with the team we've got now, I expect playoffs.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then looking ahead to Saturday specifically, how are your fans viewing it as a fixture? What's the sort of outlook on heading to the Abbey?
I don't like you guys. You know, we got...
I don't like us much either, mate, to be honest.
Yeah, you're telling me. You watch it every week. Yeah, we got relegated. But our last game in the league for that weird season where we got drunk was at the Abbey, and you guys were loving life, and everyone
got promoted that day.
No one realised what a diving, cheating twat that Paul Mullin was until.
So I can agree with you now because he
exactly.
lives off to Wrexham, 2 divisions below us.
Yeah. That was an incredible, because we beat them 5-4 that season in the playoffs.
One of my favourite games of football in the last 10 years. That one,
It's
I remember watching
amazing.
on telly. So much bitterness inside me because of the Mullin thing, and I was.
Well,
anyway.
he scored with the weakest penalty and then punched it into the net as well. So
yeah.
It was really nice of Disney to film our playoff. I wasn't expecting it, but I've never had we've had some pretty nadir days at the Abbey. There was one game, when would that have been? 2018, 2017, something like that, where it was, I mean, I was shouting at a mate of mine. That was how crap it was, sort of like the divided sort of, we had a terrible owner at the time. And I remember our striker like sticking the middle finger up at the fans as he's warming up and all this sort of stuff. It was when you used to have like the sort of tumble dryer signs behind the goal. You kind of like painted tumble dryer.
Oh yeah.
On the Yeah. So I'm not looking forward to it. As we were talking off air, it's a really interesting place for us because a lot of people get out of Grimsby when they want to get a new job or get a job. So it's kind of halfway between home and London. So you get quite a lot of people turning up, and we've got quite a few people there already this weekend. So expect a half decent bumper crowd. We always like to travel in numbers because Grimsby doesn't have a Nando's, so we need to go somewhere else for them. I hope, as we were talking, the manner of the victories we've had, last minute winners, away from home and at home. I think confidence is as high as it has been since the start of the season. And I think there's probably still there's that sort of siege mentality probably going on with the players going, look, the fans weren't necessarily there. We've got to prove it to them. We've got to show them changes could be made. So I'm hoping for a win, but I would take a point today. A point at your place is still a good point. So I'd happily take that right now.
What is your prediction to wrap us up?
Yeah, shall we go 3-3? Let's go.
Love it.
Everyone gets. The question is, what would you prefer? Would you like? I think what we should do: Town 2-0 up, and then you guys, we're all lauding it. Then you 3-2 victory. 5 minutes to go, and then we get the equaliser from it. Should we go for a really dodgy penalty that wasn't a penalty? That's how we'll do it.
Do you know what? I saw that one as a more certain penalty than all the Grimsby fans who clearly were closer to it because we were down the other end of the ground. I saw it as a certain pen, but all Grimsby fans are like, no, not so sure. But anyway, well, hopefully not. Look, I don't know if I can go through that again with you guys, but thanks for coming on the pod, Alex, and best of luck for the rest of the season too.
You too, mate. Have a great day.
Thanks very much there to them. Really great to get a bit of insight on Grimsby. Tom, Grimsby do come to us now with a tiny bit of form. I mean, it's not form like our form, but they're unbeaten in 3 games, not conceded in that time. They've won their last 2, including, and in both of them, scoring very, very late goals. One up at Fleetwood, which was a good 3 points, and finding a way against Shrewsbury at home the week before that. So they've had a really good festive run. They were one of the league's early frontrunners, especially when we went up there. I remember that point feeling like a really good point, despite it being a 90th minute equaliser for them. But they have dropped off since then. They sit 12th now. Having said that, they've got the best expected points in the whole division. So they're underperforming their XG by 9 points, indicating to me that there is a good side there. They're just maybe not executing things right, especially at the top end of the pitch. The question I've got for you is, do you think we could be guilty of underestimating them a little bit? The combination of having just come through the challenge of a lot of the emphasis of the festive period was on Walsall at home, but even more so maybe than the away games, because say you come out of those away games, even with 2 points, a lot of the emphasis would have felt like it was on Walsall at home, and that Grimsby felt like always like a much more winnable fixture. So do you think we can be, with that combination alongside the fact that they were 15th going into the New Year's Day game, so they had dropped down right into the bottom half, do you think we can be guilty of underestimating them? Because they do have some good players.
Yeah, definitely. And this is always the risk, isn't it? It's all, is it going to be a bit sort of after the Lord Mayor's show sort of thing? It's why I've been kind of quite conscious to mention a couple of times, even throughout all the bullishness and throughout all the clamour that we've shelled on this group of players and this manager over the last however many minutes as we've been talking about it. I've been quite conscious to mention a couple of times that League Two has a funny habit of biting you on the backside when you least expect it. But you've only got to look at the New Year's Day games and Accrington go to Notts County and get a win.
Yeah.
Like, this sort of thing just does happen in this division. It's one of the reasons why it's just so tight, because teams tend not to run away with it. Teams tend not to, basically go on like super extended runs along good form. Like, sometimes it just happens that things go the way that you don't expect or don't want it to. Grimsby are obviously a decent side. Again, another one that were fairly well tipped at the start of the season, I think. Obviously have given bigger clubs than ourselves a bloody nose this season already, so it would be quite foolish to underestimate like what they can do. Arguably not better sides, I suppose, but that's another conversation, I guess. But I think like they're clearly a decent side. The table doesn't always lie, I suppose, but in their case, they might expect that they're a little bit higher up. Like you said, the stats kind of speak for themselves in that regard. So, yeah, basically what I'm saying is we could definitely be guilty of underestimating them, but certainly don't do that, I suppose, is kind of the message.
Yeah, because I get the sense that from our perspective as a fan base, it feels like we've passed the test against Walsall, and it's a bit exactly after the Lord Mayor's show, like you just said, and there's a bit of that lesser excitement to this game. As a fan base, I'm talking, but we've just got to hope that isn't translating over to the players. And obviously, that's where I think the experience of people like Morrison and Ball, but obviously Harris as well, comes into it to make sure they're absolutely bang up for it, because we obviously do go into it with a bit of form. And it's important to say, think about them coming into this game. Like you're looking at going away to one of the best home sides in the league on the back of having not lost since October in the league. It's a daunting task for them as well. So I think we just got to make sure we play to the right level, and I'm sure we should have enough. As long as the period hasn't taken its toll on the side. Speaking of, I mean, it is impossible to predict lineups at the moment, but what are your thoughts? Do you keep going with Knight another game, given how brilliant he was on New Year's Day? Do you change the system up a little bit? They play 4 at the back, not 5. So do you think we'll go back to 4?
It is tricky to predict. Like, you're right. I think it is going to be energy levels that dictate a lot of it, and hopefully everyone's kind of come through that Walsall game fit, but how fit, I suppose, is the question. Like, an example is, I thought at times Brophy looked a little bit leggy. For example, and you would have him down at the moment is absolutely nailed on starter. One thing I've got a sneaking suspicion we might see is Lavery starting. Just because I think we've used him pretty sparingly throughout the Christmas period. And I think we've always had one eye on particularly in the build up to Christmas and obviously the last 3 games as well, one eye on getting through like this little chunk of games, finishing with Grimsby, because then obviously the Birmingham game is the Birmingham game. We don't need to put too much emphasis on how, the importance of it. but between Grimsby finishing and obviously Fleetwood on the 17th?
Fleetwood, yeah.
It is the next game. You've got basically nearly 2 clear weeks in the window then to go and address any gaps that you got and address injury concerns. So I guess what I'm saying is if you're going to push Lavery now, do it against Grimsby. It is basically the thing. And then if he does get injured, at least you've got time to sort of address it. The sort of wider conversation that is, if you're worried about starting a player, probably go out and recruit somebody anyway. But yeah, like it is hard to say. I guess tactically, I'm not really sure. It's one of those situations where you just trust whatever the manager's got in mind at the moment, 'cause he's earned the right for it. But in terms of personnel, like I say, I've got a sneaky feeling that the Lavery might start. The night one is probably the difficult one. So I think if you play him, you probably want him in his preferred position, which I guess is as close as possible to where the centre forward is, or sort of just off or just behind. And yeah, like that does raise a headache. So I guess that limits to an extent like what you can do with the rest of the team. But remains to be seen. And obviously, like I said before, like we can try and predict it as much as you want, but I wouldn't be surprised or I guess disappointed is the wrong word, but it would be pretty normal if a lot of these players are feeling pretty gassed at the moment. So yeah, just have to see who's come through it and how. But the good thing is, in most parts of the pitch, we've got options, right? And the benefit of playing well and having a squad where there's a lot of competition at the moment, or the players that are available are all mostly in pretty good form, is like, what was our first choice centre mid partnership when you go to Chesterfield? They didn't even start a game in Ruddock and Hoddle. Yeah. So you've got potentially 2 well rested players there. So it might be the case you just keep it as similar as possible. If people are feeling a bit tired, just plug and play like where you kind of need to. But like I said before, I think Lavery might come in.
I like that prediction a lot, and I think the other thing I'd back it up with in terms of what I'd like to see is you've mentioned the Chesterfield game there, but Ruddock starting. I love seeing Ruddock play slightly further up the pitch. We did that against Chesterfield. He's done it before, like Colchester and Fulham off the top of my head. I think there's a couple of other times as well. But I'd love to see like a free of Knight on the right, Ruddock, Brophy behind Lavery to start the game. I think that'd be really interesting, and maybe McLovin and Hoddle, but more likely McLovin and Ball, knowing Harris. What I worry that he'll do, at times this season we haven't been at our best, in my opinion, when Pelly and Ball have played together in that kind of double pivot role, or whatever you want to call it. That's those two slightly different, deeper positions. I always think someone like a Hoddle or a McLovin is a much more sort of mobile type of player to have in those deeper roles. I worry. I don't think this is what I'm not saying this is what you're going to do. I worry that he'll feel like he has to somehow get Pelly and Dom Ball on the pitch at the same time and play them there together. And then I'd be interested to see how they play together now in this sort of updated version of us since Ball's come back and we've been on this run. But I'm not a huge fan of those two sitting, so I would like to see us not do that.
Well, arguably, I mean, you don't want to pin it on one particular thing, and clearly there's all sorts of factors that go into good runs of form and all sorts of factors that go into bad runs of form. But the one thing during the times when it wasn't maybe going as well as it is right now that we spoke about every single week was that middle part of the pitch. And as soon as you find the formula there, or you find that formula, like the needle will move quickly and shift quickly, and it has. And maybe one of the big reasons for that is that those two haven't really played together at all.
Well, I think so. I mean, we've only got the evidence at our disposal to make that conclusion, haven't we?
Or played next to each other, I suppose I should say. Because if it is, McLaughlin and Ball and then Pelly playing a bit higher up, maybe then that changes the dynamic a bit. But yeah, certainly felt like they didn't quite have the synergy that you expected. Because I think at the start of the season, if you said to people what's the team going to look like, you'd have been pretty nailed on in saying that it'd be those two starting every week instead of mid.
But I just love the idea of Brophy, Ruddock and Knight in the form they've all been in the past 2 games. They've all 3 of them at different moments been exceptional. Feeding Lavery feels like get yourself off to a flyer. You could be 2-3-0 up around 60 minutes and take Lavery off, and that's an absolute luxury position to be in. What is your prediction, though? I mean, Casper in the previous pod, or the pod before Warsaw, said he would take 4 points from these 2 home games, whichever way they came, which I thoroughly agreed with when I was listening to it before the Warsaw game. But now I've got to say, do you think you'd be slightly disappointed if we only got a point out of this Grimsby game?
Yeah, I think you'd be lying if you said you wouldn't be. And that's not to disrespect Grimsby, because 4 points from these 2 games would probably still be a pretty good return, and you'd look back and you go, all right, reset, go again, bodies in, all that sort of good stuff. Yeah. But you can't see what you've seen against Walsall, and you can't see what you see in the last 8 or 10 weeks and not go, oh, there is a bit of an opportunity to really put a cat amongst the pigeons. If you then go 3 wins in a row heading into Birmingham, then you're thinking, fuck it, we'll win the FA Cup as well. Let's see what happens.
Wow.
No, I think look, you want to the really blasting obvious thing is you want to avoid defeat. I think that's really clear. We're not quite at this point in the season yet, and we've put ourselves in a good spot for it. But you're almost looking more so at the gap to third or second or whatever than you are at your own results at this stage. But it's probably a bit early for that, I suppose.
Maybe it's actually.
But yeah, look, we're well placed. Like if you come out and you draw the game, like I think naturally you'd be a bit like, oh, we did have a bit of an opportunity there because this is, in terms of how the table actually looks, and I know there's the expected points and that sort of stuff, but how the table actually looks, this is a more presentable game than Walsall. So the logical thing obviously is that we can just have enough to get through it, and then you really see how we can kick on. But I just think when you play a lot of games in a short period of time, momentum carries you so far, but then it's about like, have you got enough in the tank? So that'll be probably what decides it, I guess, a little bit. But hopefully we've got just about enough to scrape through it, and if we can do that, then if you think we're bullish now,
think about after that
Sunday 6 o'clock or whenever it'll be, then we'll be very interested.
What's your prediction?
I think we'll have enough. Having said what I've said about energy and fitness levels and all that sort of stuff, I've just seen enough like from this team in the last few weeks to convince me that at home particularly will be fairly reliable. I know we've sort of been just we've said it in jest over the last few years, a lot of things about clean sheets and platforms and that sort of stuff, but it is also true, like if we can do what we've done against probably better teams than Grimsby really in the last few weeks, in terms of limiting them to pretty minimal clear-cut chances at least, and in some cases it's been limiting them to basically no chances at all. You don't have to show a lot of the other end of the pitch, really. You just have to have a moment. And if you've got players like Knight doing what he did the other night and things the other day, I should say, and obviously players like Pelly in the sort of form that he's been in recently and all this sort of stuff. And if Lavery can come back into the team, you know what he can do, then you're not talking about necessarily having to be like miles better than Grimsby. You're just talking about, have you got enough? And I think I couldn't be sat here after a victory against Walsall, going up to 5th in the league, 10 unbeaten, all that sort of stuff, and not honestly say, I'll probably fancy us against Grimsby at home, to be honest.
What's that then? 1-0? 2-0?
Yeah, I should go 1-0. Yeah, sorry, you asked me for a prediction. I didn't give you one.
I need cold hard numbers here.
Yeah, I'll go with a 1-0 win and proper gritty resistance in the last few minutes. And if you're a fan of mirroring back to the lockdown season, like we've done a couple of times, the last time we played Grimsby at home in the league was quite fun as well.
Yeah,
so,
it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, something that the fella brought up on the preview there is that we sent them down the same day, which obviously I hadn't clocked, but unimportant. I'm going to go 1-1. I'm going to pour a bit of cold water on this pod. I just think it might be a game too far for us, but I have got a prediction that it's going to be carbon copy of the game up there, but the other way around. I think we'll score a last minute equaliser, and it'll feel like a much bigger point than it might have felt pre-game, if that makes sense. Like I think what the last minute equaliser might still do to keep the momentum and the unbeaten streak up and all that sort of stuff.
I don't mind that.
I think it might be like a Lavery off the bench or something like that. But yeah,
I don't mind that, and we really do need a bit of cold water poured on us here because, specifically on me, because I think I've mentioned potentially winning the league and the FA Cup on the same podcast.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, it's been a bit too much.
It's like, calm down, mate. You just beat Walsall. That's it. Don't worry about it. But
do you know something I haven't updated you about? Just to finish the pod, that requires a bit more positivity. Is my Christmas lunch at the Old Spring.
Oh yeah,
terrific. I couldn't recommend it highly enough. Brilliant atmosphere in there. Got my 10% off as well, which obviously you can use the UTAS discount. But yeah, it was brilliant. Like,
presumably, with your Christmas lunch, that's the equivalent of 1 free pint.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But
It'll land in a minute.
it was excellent. I highly recommend it. If you're looking for somewhere for Christmas lunch next year, you know where to go, or just go for a Matchday Meal Deal. Get yourself a world famous skepasti burger, fish and chips, and any beer before any United game. 6 to 7 p.m. half price beers, or 10% off any time, as I enjoyed on Christmas afternoon. The Old Spring One Ferry Path are wonderful sponsors. That's us done today, Tom. It's been a lot of pods over the Christmas periods, hasn't it? It's you say that it's been a slog for the players. It's been a slog for us as well, hasn't it?
Yeah. Although to be fair, I've had my minutes managed pretty well, so I feel
Well, luxury
fighting
players
fit
like you need a little bit of time.
I feel fighting fit and raring to go. But it's been a grueling period, as it so often is at this level.
It has. Well, we're back on, I think, Monday night. We're going to do a Grimsby review pod and maybe look back over the whole sort of festive period as a whole. If you want to say thank you for all this pods and free content, do go consider being a Coconut tier member. It's £5 a month. It's basically the equivalent of buying us a pint every month and not being around Dodger. You get bonus podcast content every month. Me, Caspel and George have just recorded a really fun little mid-season check-in where we've updated our predictions and done some player of the season so far, that sort of stuff chat, which is great. There's a whole hour of that, and there's interview with John Taylor, with Mark Green, loads of stuff. You get match previews every week, and excitingly, we've now got Matt Ramsey doing some match reports every game as well. One of the best writers of Cambridge United, I'm sure you'd agree, and good friend of the pod. So loads of stuff on the website. Anyway, that's enough. I'm going to stop talking. Tom, Happy New Year. Thanks for joining me, and we need to go calm down a little bit because that's way too British.
Yeah, shame it's, as we record, currently Friday night, so it's not ideal. But anyway, yeah, we'll give it a good go.